Hello and welcome to, I hope, an actual assembly video. So, in the last one we did RAM and talked a bunch about the motherboard, and in this one hopefully we will be dropping the motherboard into the case. I am once again joined by my cat because I'm filming these videos right back to back. So, let's get going. Has to have standoffs, so this is one, right? Man, my pixel's going to have fun trying to interpret that image. So this is a standoff, and that your case appears to only have two pre-installed, but there are spots for more. You can't, it's hard to see, but the other one's right there. So I'll probably be installing them wherever is appropriate. And just in case I don't say it again, I mentioned earlier, right before I cut this video, that this is for electrical isolation because you don't want to rub some of the metal components on a motherboard against other metal. You could end up shorting them and ruining the motherboard or even other components, depending on how unlucky you were. So these standoffs will be where you mount the motherboard through the screw holes I talked about way in a previous video. Back in the day, it used to be pretty hard to install them, but it looks like it's just regular threaded screws here. Like you can see this thing right here, off the edge of my thumb, is a standoff, right? So it's a thing to screw another screw into. And I haven't forgotten about your hard drive. I will be getting, I'm stealing a screw off of one of my other boards, and then I'll go buy one from Ace or wherever. Okay, other than that, like really the only thing you need to assemble this, just about any computer, a normal computer, right? I build some dumb stuff, but a normal one is a screwdriver. I have a little one, but most of the parts would be fine with a bigger one. Oh, let's see. And I think that's about all I'm gonna go into. I'll show you, if I come across anything interesting in the process, I'll show you that. But I don't know exactly. It looks like these are just going to come off. Maybe I will do this ahead of time. To install your graphics card, because it'll clip to two of these slots like I showed you earlier. You got to take that bracket off. And now that that's freed up, you can see that these are just going to pop out, right? Oop. If I do that one, it'll be the wrong one, but I'll confirm which ones it'll be before I pop any of them out. And you could get, there are screw holes, right? So you could get, if you really wanted, maybe some aftermarket brackets and then just kind of forget that this thing exists. Or screw in from the top on this, or whatever you feel like doing if it comes up. But for now, I think I'll just leave it there. All right, so I'm done. Ha! Ha ha! Ha! I didn't film actual assembly. Well, you're welcome. I'll have to adjust the intended video title. I'm going to, I assume, talk a fair amount though about what I did. So I'll keep playing the video. And you can see this is the graphics card here that ended up mounted. It slots right into a spot on the motherboard that hopefully I'll show you. With the majority of assembly, and I've got a couple notes. The first is the fan filters, front and top, are removable. I don't know why you would ever remove them. And I used on the fans here, you can see that's that screw, etc. Those are all self-tapping screws. The two at the bottom there are kind of harder to see. But those are self-tapping screws. If you take them off and put them back on a whole bunch of times, eventually the housing on the actual fan will wear. Let's see, these little bracket things. So here you can see this is the edge of the graphics card that I had mounted, and you can see the screws for the graphics card right here that help to hold it in place, in addition to it fitting in one of the long slots in the motherboard. It is also worth noting that this silver part up here is called an I/O shield, and that just goes into the back of your case for your motherboard. It basically protects the empty area around the important motherboard ports. So it makes it harder for things to just get into your case or mess with those ports. Right, that were here, right? These little black pieces that were here and here. Not super fun to get off. You basically just have to push them in from the bottom and then wiggle back and forth, like in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And eventually they'll break off. Power supply was interesting because it came with an included bracket that kind of mounts it farther inside. There's a possibility I could have figured out how to deal without that, like take the bracket off and kind of mount it to this housing, but I didn't want to really waste the time trying. On the back side here, the cable management area is actually okay. I was able to run in your case, you have a bunch of extra cables on the power supply, right? I mentioned these SATA ones earlier, and these are called Molex. You don't have anything on either of these that you're going to use. I didn't really show it earlier, but this windowed panel I had already taken off. And the windowed panel was held on by some thumb screws, which are around. I might have put it back in the bag. Yeah, which I put back in the bag already by accident. But the back panel, right, the panel that I took off to get to the case goes something like this. That was... I'm gonna go back here for a second. And the windowed panel was held on by some watch for the cat thumb screws, which are around. I might have put it back in the bag. Yeah, which I put back in the bag already by accident. But the back panel, right, the panel that I took off to get to the case,
Isn't she
goes
adorable?
something like this. That was held on by these guys. Oh, and I don't know if I said earlier, but this is not a glass panel here. It's acrylic. Like, just listen to that. Definitely.
It got to be a pretty popular trend to do tempered glass panels, which are more expensive than acrylic but do look nicer. And they're heavier too. So this was a pretty inexpensive case, so it was just an acrylic panel or some other plasticky of some sort.
Acrylic. Okay. And I don't think I have any other important build notes. Say hi to my cat. Let's see. I did end up catching. I don't know how well you're gonna be.
So it's kind of sad, but you can kind of see. Oh, not there. You can kind of see USB 3 front panel headers, which were they're always a mess. But that's where they ended up getting wired up.
Those front panel connectors earlier, I didn't know where they were, are right in the front of the motherboard. They're right here, and they were fairly. The connectors on the motherboard weren't very clearly labeled, but they were on the case cords, fortunately. And you can see here in your little motherboard quick installation guide, you can see where I found where to plug those guys in, right? So you've got a hard drive, activity LED, power LED, and the reset switch, power switch. On that little bundle of connectors. Last thing, I did find that screw I was missing. It was in a little bag hidden in this guy. And I think that's it. Now I'm pretty much just gonna do... Yes, Gabby, hi. I'm going to do a little bit more cable management here, but I'm not gonna go nuts because A, you don't have very many cables, and B, you really probably don't care. So I'm just gonna make sure it'll close tight, and if I don't have to do any work to make that happen, I'm not gonna. After this, I'll probably just have a screen capture of testing and stuff to show you what
I don't know exactly what I do after this, but I am going to stop the video and we'll see what we do next time. I believe I'll do a little bit of benchmarking and testing and maybe some BIOS explanation. But if you want a video with more detail about the actual assembling of the computer, which I skipped recording and I was admittedly kind of wondering how I had managed to record it on one hand. Well, now I know I didn't. Um, but if you want some more detail there, go ahead and mention it in the comments and I'll see if I can get a video put together. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward in terms of if it looks like it fits, it probably does fit. You have to be a little bit careful about that, but most components come with a little bit like a little guide to make sure that you aren't plugging things in wrong if it happens to fit, right? So again, for the most part, if it looks like it fits, then that's what it's meant to do. But you can double check that with manuals or quick start guides that come with the various components, or you could ask me to make a video about it, and if the channel gets popular enough, I will oblige. So, anyway, I will see you guys in the next one.